Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today got a little project here. This is for a viewer, and met him a while back. He asked if I could help him out on a little brazing job, repairing a machine he's restoring. Now, this is a part that goes on a drill press. Basically, you got the piece that goes up and down the column, and the table mounts on this little bracket. I don't remember. He probably told me what model it was and who made it and what have you. I just don't remember. And he didn't put a note in here with the information, so I don't have that information handy. But at some point in time, this piece had been broken. And at some point in time, I believe he said before he got it, a repair had been made, but the repair was rather poor, I guess you could say, as it is literally coming apart. And he wanted to see if I could braze this thing back together. So anyway, we're going to give it a shot. Let's see if we can knock this thing out. Shouldn't be too terribly difficult, I hope. So just giving you guys a little close-up look at the part here. You can see, again, this part goes on a column, goes up and down. The table mounts here. Here's where the break was. It had been brazed back together previously, but it's not holding together. It's coming apart. I think my game plan here is I want to get this thing separated and grind out all this old brass, and then we're just going to put it back together. I need to get it set up properly. Right now, I can tell that this front end is not on the same plane as the column. This is sitting at an angle, and so yeah, look at there. I mean, it's just, I mean, I can bend it with my hand. So we're just going to knock that loose. I'll probably just take a hammer and hit it real good, and I'm sure it'll pop right off. And then I'm going to grind that out. Looks like it had been V'd out previously. I don't know why this didn't fail, or this braze job failed. It just, I guess they didn't get the temperature right or something, and didn't get a good fusion between the two pieces. Normally with brazing, that shouldn't be a problem. So, all right, I'm gonna separate this and I get that ground out, and we'll be ready to see if we can braze this back together. Well, I didn't really show it, but we came in here and just ground out some of these areas in here where this is going to go together. And I wanted to get the bronze that was in there out, so I got most of this down to cast iron as much as I could. And I've got it beveled around here. I just did this over on the belt sander back there in the back of the shop. And now I've got it kind of set up over here on my welding table. I got some shims up underneath this, which should hopefully kind of keep this thing level as I'm brazing it, so that it is in line with the column over here. The bottom of this is machined as well as the bottom of this piece, so they should be both laying flat. And we're just going to heat this thing up and come in here with a brazing rod and start brazing. So anyway, let's see if we can get this thing going. And I'm going to use my torch set here with a brazing tip. This is a fairly small profile piece, so I shouldn't need a whole heck of a lot of heat in this to get it going. So we'll go ahead and get a nice flame going here. We're going to start by just trying to heat the part up fairly evenly. One of the tricks to brazing is that you don't want to just put all your heat in one area and have it cold over here. That's going to create that, it's going to expand in one place and not the other. So you want to kind of heat it up fairly evenly. Now, once you get to brazing temperature, yeah, you're going to be concentrating your heat here where you're working, but you want to have that part fairly hot. So we're going to take a few minutes and kind of preheat this up. A lot of times, if you got one, you can put the part in an oven or something and let it preheat. I don't have an oven out here in the shop really to put this in, so we're going to be just doing it with a torch. We are sitting on the metal workbench here, so that is going to be a heat sink, but the area that we're brazing, we got an air gap underneath it, so I'm not too worried about that. While I'm preheating this, I will just comment, because it seems like every time I do brazing, I get all kinds of comments from people, and I know you guys that have watched me do this, you've heard this spiel before, but I'm going to go over it because we'll have people that are watching this and haven't seen me talk about this before. But with cast iron like this, brazing, in my opinion, is a better option than trying to weld. With welding, you are melting the base materials and putting a filler in between them. So if you got steel or something like that, welding is a good option. Cast iron, on the other hand, when you go to melting the base material, you change the chemical structure of that cast iron, and you actually make it weaker. So even using a nickel rod or something like that, my experience has been that I don't get as good of a union as I do if I braise. Now we're brazing here, we're not getting the cast iron up to melting temperature. We're joining this with dissimilar materials, and the bronze that we're going to be putting in here melts at a lower temperature. We want to get the cast iron up to about a cherry red in temperature, and when you put that braze in there, it kind of will chemically bond with the cast iron, and it will make a very, very strong weld or braze, I guess technically, but it'll make a very strong union. In fact, it's almost as strong as welding steel. People will often say, oh, that's not going to be strong enough, that's going to break. Guys, I've done a ton of cast iron brazing repairs, and I've had very few cases where when it was done properly that you have a problem that you have to come back. Now, I could tell on this right here, one side of it looked like it had fused good. The other side, when it broke, it just snapped right off between the cast iron and the braze. So that tells me they didn't probably have it up to high enough temperature. They didn't get a good bond between the two parts, and yes, it failed. So, but we're going to try to avoid that type of situation. All right, guys. Not going to say you can't weld cast iron. There are people out there that have had lots of success with it. I personally have not had as good a success with welding as I have brazing. Granted, I have a lot more experience brazing, so that's probably factors into that, but I feel like brazing on cast iron is kind of the gold standard and what really works well. I will also comment, some people say, why not TIG braze this instead of flame brazing it? You can TIG braze it if you want to. I like the flame braze on parts that have a little mass to them because I can heat the whole part up and keep heat in the entire part. If you wanted to TIG braze this, you would have to preheat it, and you'd have to do it fairly quickly so that you had the heat going all over the entire part heated up. With TIG brazing, you're going to be focusing your flame or your heat in a very, very tight area, and again, it works good on small parts, but on bigger pieces, and I consider this even a bigger piece, I just like to get the torch out. Again, not going to say we couldn't TIG braze this, we could, but I personally feel like I get better results with the torch. All right, we're going to get this heated up, and we'll braze this together. I will note that this front part is a little thicker than the back part, so I am kind of concentrating my heat over here so that I get a fairly even heat between the two. And we're pretty much kind of a dark cherry red. That's about where we want to be for brazing. So we're going to go ahead and put our brazing rod down in here and start letting it go. The white on this is a flux, and you just want to get it in there and just kind of let it melt and flow right into place. Kind of got one side done there. I'm going to go ahead and get this other side kind of tacked in place, and then we'll work on ridging across there. All right. Again, we'll just get down in there and we'll let that braze melt and just kind of flow down into that joint. Kind of gap it over. I don't want to get it too hot here, or it'll just go flowing everywhere. Alright, that looks pretty darn good actually. Alright. I think what I'm going to do now, since I kind of got that bottom in there, let me see if I can kind of sneak up the side here a little bit. It's kind of hard to break going uphill, but it can be done. shut that off for a second, go grab a pair of pliers. All right, that is pretty good on the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of flip this over and see if we can kind of braze that top together a little bit. Oh, put a couple of shims up underneath this just to give a little support, and we'll come in there and do this side as well. And I am going to take a little brush here and just kind of clean that up a little bit. Fire our torch back up. All right, we're gonna heat this side back up again. We still have most of that heat in there. It won't take long to get it back up to brazing temperature. All right, we got that top area kind of laid in there. I don't like the way this looks right here. I'm going to kind of get it heated back up and put a little more of a dab in there. All right, I like that. Now, I'm going to lay it over on its side, and we'll try to get that done a little bit better. Notice I'm putting my heat on the cast iron and not on the brazed area. I don't want it to melt that bronze that's in there out, but I do want to get it kind of up to temperature. So right here, I'm focusing my heat on either side of it. And we're kind of right there where we need to be now. There's a good bit of flux down in there, but we're just going to go ahead and lay some more braze in here. For some reason, that is giving me some trouble right there. Get in here and see if I can clean that up a little bit better. All right, that seems like that took a little bit better. Let's flip it over to the other side again. I'm going to go ahead and try to hit that with that wire brush. Clean it out real good again. I think what was getting me on the other side is there was so much flux that had kind of gotten down in there that it was just giving me a little bit of trouble. So if I can get some of that cleaned out, that flux is almost like glass. And it can give you a little bit of trouble sometimes. All right, let's go at this again. I'm not just blasting this with heat. Sometimes you get the torch going too hard and it kind of just blows your brass all over the place. This is fairly thin, doesn't have a whole lot of mass to it, so I'm gonna turn my flame down a little bit lower where I just have a little bit more control over things. It's kind of my game plan here. And we're just about to temp. All right, that's taking it. When it's taking it, it just kind of flows right into place. And when it's not, it just wants to go all over the place. All right, that looks good. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. We are going to get a heat blanket and we're going to wrap this thing up and let it cool down. The cool down process here is just as important as the brazing process. We heat this part up fairly slowly. We want it to cool down slowly and evenly, so I'm going to wrap it up in this fireproof welder's blanket, and we're just going to let that sit here probably until tomorrow and let it kind of cool down and normalize. So it is the next day. This has had plenty of time to cool down, and we're going to take it out and check it out, see how we did. All right. Looks pretty good. I think what I'm going to do is take this back to the wire wheel and give it a good cleaning, get all that oxidation and stuff off of it, and may do a little grinding to it as well, just to kind of clean it up a little bit, smooth it up a little bit, particularly on the outside, but it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Well, I think this is going to be the finished product here. I did just put it on the wire wheel, just get everything kind of cleaned up where everything blends together. I did a little sanding on the sides just to knock them down a little bit. But all in all, I'm very happy with how that looks. I think it's going to hold up just fine. Got a couple little gobs down here in the bottom side where when I was trying to weld these sides up, it kind of fell over in there, but it's not going to hurt anything. If he wants to grind that out, he can, but like I said, it's not in the way, and that material is definitely only adding strength. So he's got the area down here where the bolt's going to go in that's all cleaned up, so cleared out, so that should be fine. I think that this is going to hold up just fine. I don't see any problems with it at all. Like I said, I've had very good success cast iron brazing with stuff holding up for the long haul. So in my experience, a good cast iron braze job, repair job, it's not as strong as the original, but it's not far from it. And usually, unless you just had a bad braze job, which occasionally you run into that, but usually when I see a part that has been brazed and is broken again, it's broken somewhere besides where they brazed it at. So anyway, there you go. We're going to ship this back up to him and let him get that back on his drill. So there we go. Sometimes it's just a quick and easy job, and that was the case here. Not too difficult at all, but hopefully get some back in business, and where he can finish up restoring this drill press and get it back in operation. I hope so. Like I said, this should work just fine for him. We're going to get this boxed up and shipped out of here and on its way. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted to the site. And as always, a big, huge thank you to the subscribers as well as those who support the site financially through Patreon and PayPal. We could not do everything that we do without your help. And guys, with that, we're going to sign off. We will catch you on the next video again. Thanks for watching.